Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I realize that I've been away for far too long, and so to atone for this lapse, I'm going to be jumping right into a topic that has been much discussed over the last few months here on YouTube, the new social network known as Candid. But before we get there, it is necessary to first talk about the growing sense of dread on the social media horizon. So over the last few months, there have been a number of incidents that have upset people on a lot of major social media platforms. For example, on YouTube, the advertiser-friendly content guidelines have become a lot more rigidly enforced, and so videos which deal with sensitive and controversial subjects have been getting demonetized, meaning that the creators can't make any YouTube ad revenue of these videos. This has been widely interpreted as a form of soft censorship that YouTube has begun to engage in. Meanwhile, on Twitter, they've established a trust and safety council composed of largely legitimate human rights groups, but also some very far left-wing activist groups like Feminist Frequency and Women Action and the Media to aid with the moderation of the site. Some may suggest culminating in the removal of prominent right-wing figures from the platform, such as Milo Yiannopoulos and Ricky Vaughn. Reddit is another platform that has had serious issues with moderation. In particular, in 2015, some of the key decisions made by the higher-ups at Reddit caused a Reddit revolt, leading to the rise of alternative platforms such as Vote. And of course, Facebook has also had its share of censorship issues, with the site allegedly censoring conservative viewpoints on its trending news section. The overarching point is that there are growing fears of online censorship in some quarters, and also of increasing moderation, and so alternative social networks which moderate less have begun to flourish in the space left by these larger social networks' policies. For example, there are Twitter alternatives like Sea Lion Club, Gab.ai and Minds, new YouTube alternatives like vid.me, new Reddit alternatives like the previously mentioned Vote and the newer Linkgum, etc. And a part of what Candid has done is to target this market of people looking for a new home, with the promise of a 100% anonymous social network where you are free to speak your mind.
Everyone has opinions to share, but not all of our opinions are safe on social media. With Candid, you can share real opinions with friends and other people you care about without fear of social backlash and judgment. It's where authentic conversations happen.
So what we're going to be doing is looking at what the app actually is, where it came from, and then hopefully trying to answer some of the questions which people have been asking as of late. So it's best to start off with a simple description of what Candid is and how it works. So Candid, as I said, is an anonymous chat app where users are assigned a random name and animal avatar every time they post or comment. Candid also allows people to post links, text and images in a range of different groups. For example, political content goes into the politics group, etc. All of the content that you subscribe to then comes up in a large social feed, sort of like Twitter. As at present date, the app is not monetized, so there are no in-app ads, though we will come back to this a lot later. It's also worth mentioning that Candid is not unique in its concept. There is also Whisper, Secret, Vent, Yik Yak, After School, and even another app called Candid for the BlackBerry, all of which offer the same sorts of anonymity features, and a good proportion of which have failed in the past. Now, Candid itself has a long and interesting backstory. It popped up in July 2016 as the brainchild of internet marketing luminaries and ex-Google product leads CEO Bindu Reddy and CTO Arvind Sundararajan, the latter of which was in charge of the back-end team behind Google AdSense, which is a very famous ad serving technology. And so Candid was formed as sort of a spin-off of these two people's internet marketing company, MyLikes, and shares a lot of the same personnel. The point is that both of the people behind this app have an extensive background in internet marketing, and that's going to be very important for later on. The app launched initially as sort of a place for anonymous Silicon Valley gossip, and according to traces scattered across their website, was initially supposed to be called Gossip. So what we're going to go over next is the moderation of the app, which was actually marked out as a key feature in the media shortly after the app launched in July. You see, several of these other anonymous social networks have launched and had real issues with moderation because anonymity online is very easily abused by spam bots, etc. Candid's approach is different because it passes all of the user posts through an AI filtering system, which then analyzes the text and works out whether a post might be harassment or slander or abuse, or whether it's even true or not, and then it removes the post after it is reviewed by human moderators, or as was later proved, the post is shadow banned so only the person who posted it can see it and no one else can. This has led to quite a high post removal rate, reaching 70% at times, according to Bindu Reddy. This brings us to the community guidelines, which are the rules that the AI enforces. When you look at the full guidelines on Candid's site, a couple of the items stand out. In addition to the restrictions on violent content, porn, etc. that you would expect, there are a couple of interesting ones, and I quote, "Quality. The quality of posts is extremely important to this community. Contributors are encouraged to provide high quality and informative content. Low quality posts and comments will be filtered. There is a specific group, quote unquote, random uncensored, where content is not filtered. Posts should be on topic. The purpose of Candid is to promote honest conversations. Your post may be filtered or moved to random if your post has nothing to do with the group you are posting in." Complaints about Candid. Like any other platform such as 4chan, complaining about Candid, its policies, moderation, etc. may result in post deletion and a ban. Constructive, positive or negative feedback about Candid can be posted to the group Candid Feedback. This rule does not apply to the random uncensored group. Impersonating Candid mods is not allowed. Mod posts will have the mod badge displayed. So basically, Candid bans shitposting, rigorously enforces post categories, and bans any negative criticism of the app itself. And it would be these rules and the AI enforcing them that would become the subject of a bit of ongoing YouTube drama that started in September 2016. Because once the initial press coverage that trumpeted the AI moderation as being the key killer app trickled to a halt, Candid began to advertise extensively via YouTube advertorials. I.e., they started paying YouTube content creators, including some big names in the YouTube anti-feminist / skeptic community like Mundane Matt, Armored Skeptic, The Amazing Atheist, etc., to make sponsored videos for them. Now, there was one claim in particular that was made throughout these different video ads that caused a lot of issues down the road, and that was the idea that Candid is a place where you can say anything you want, unlike Facebook and Twitter, etc.
Look, we are living in an increasingly controlled environment. What I like about this app is that when people are free to say anything, insightful ideas that you would normally not hear can percolate.
We live in a time of mass communication thanks largely to the advent of social media, but the same social media outlets that give us a voice, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, have also shown a tremendous proclivity for ideologically based censorship.
Candid allows for that kind of freedom, and in this day and age, we absolutely positively need that kind of anonymity on the internet. Look at Twitter and YouTube and Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook.
We've made an app that lets you say whatever the fuck you want about anything.
Of course, this claim kind of conflicts with the whole AI moderation thing, and the long list of things you're not allowed to say on Candid. So the first YouTuber to notice this was a guy by the name of Harmful Opinions, who found all of the earlier AI moderation articles and presented the argument that these YouTubers were deceiving their audience and preying on their audience's predilection for free speech as an absolute by getting them into an app which in reality is actually quite heavily moderated, at least to the same extent as any other social network. Harmful Opinions also proffered some theories about the app's lack of ads, like the idea that the AI is being trained on humans so that one day it could be sold and used across the internet to moderate all online discussion. Of course, he wasn't entirely serious in all of these suggestions, he was just putting things out there. Now, these rather mild criticisms that he had were met with a massive reaction from the people who were paid by these YouTube advertorial videos, as well as the people from Candid itself. This led led to several video responses and insults being exchanged, as well as conflict with Candid CEO Bindu Reddy, all culminating in a stream which you can watch down below with Bearing, where Bindu gave some rather interesting answers to the YouTube community's questions. Now, in the middle of this drama that was going on, Encyclopedia Dramatica decided to start covering this issue as they often do, and so what they did was to dig into the source code of the Candid app itself, which they decompiled. And what they found was actually quite interesting. Firstly, there was an analytics framework called Kochava deeply embedded into the application, 460 mentions in 140 files. Now, what Kochava does is actually ad analytics. That is, it allows people who place an ad campaign to see certain statistics about the campaign that they've run, i.e. how many clicks, where those clicks came from, etc. It can also be used to track simple little things like how many people installed the app and details of the installations, but it can go all the way up to things like, for example, every time someone likes a post, it puts whoever liked it into a database somewhere. So not only does it have Kochava embedded in it, but there's also code that shows what kind of information is being collected about users' posts and comments, though of course not what's being done with any of this information. So for example, comments, the full text, unique comment number, number of likes and quote-unquote like value are all being caught, and for users, a unique user ID, age, number of friends, number of posts, and a mysterious quality score are all also caught and used by the app too. Now, just because these things are in the source code doesn't mean that the app is up to no good. The point is that it is quite good at tracking you and knowing all of this quite valuable demographic information, though of course none of it is personally identifiable. So these discoveries have basically led to accusations that this app is just a honeypot for data mining, but haven't really answered the overarching question of how the app is actually making money. Well, the best person to actually answer that question is in fact Candid CEO Bindu Reddy, and this comes from an interview with her where she was asked, how can brands make use of a platform that specializes in anonymity? It's really good for brands to do beta testing, said Reddy. You can use it for releasing new products and trailers to see authentic reactions, targeting specific people who they think are potential customers. A movie about politics can be promoted on a politics channel or an actors group. Disney could target interested fans directly, and brands could start conversations about particular movies. There's already a thriving Pokemon Go group, and brands can target those players with services, features, and announcements. Furthermore, Reddy notes, you can get information and honest feedback about your brand, and you can promote your brand to people who have interests that align with it. So what she appears to be describing here is targeted advertising and the fact that Candid can, and perhaps already does, act as one huge focus group. A company could pay them to advertise a product by creating a discussion around a new movie on one of their boards, for example, and then they could gauge the market reaction to their ad or their discussion or their idea by the analytics provided by Candid. That shows you the level of data that they actually have on the activity on their social network. Having access to this kind of pool of people who are giving honest feedback is also quite an edge for any marketing company to have, because as I said before, Candid is spun out of MyLikes, and what is MyLikes' unique selling point? Well, they're a marketing company that uses machine learning and AI to better target people with ads, and they generate really good social media analytics. So working out basically what people like and then targeting ads to them has been what has allowed MyLikes to thrive. So then the question has to be asked, what possible overlap between MyLikes' AI and analytics platform, which is all about gauging social trends and targeting ads to people based on those social trends, and Candid's AI, which is all about enforcing the rules, is there? This brings us back to the issue of data mining and potentially dangerous waters, but given everything here, I want to state that the following is just my honest and sincerely held opinion from the facts that we have so far on how Candid has the potential to be used. Feel free to read the sources down below and formulate your own opinion. So firstly, data mining is a very misunderstood term, which a lot of people think means simply taking people's personal information, let's say age, location, and all those demographics and selling it. This isn't true because the raw data like that isn't very useful. It actually needs to be analyzed and refined to actually be of use to anyone. So data mining is simply the practice of taking a large data set and analyzing it and breaking it down to find patterns, and as such data mining is very common in advertising online, particularly on social media, because finding what certain people in a demographic like or who they listen to when making buying decisions greatly improves your ability to target people with ads. So for the sake of a thought experiment, let's say Candid is part of a large analytics/data mining operation, then all of the odd things that people have been questioning begin to make a lot more sense. In other words, when I personally look at Candid as not just an app, but as a free way to generate a large data set of what people on the internet in general like and what they think for the purposes of targeted advertising and generating analytic insights, then things start to make a lot more sense. In this context, trolls and shitposters aren't heretics that need to be purged for the sake of any political ideology. It's got nothing to do with politics, but rather trolls are annoyances who mess up and distort the statistical picture of what the internet really looks like, and they lower the value of the lucrative data that you're trying to collect, and they cost you money, so that is why they gotta go. The AI moderation in this scenario is then simply cleaning up this data and getting rid of posts that don't contribute anything of use. And of course, one of the first things that you do with a large data set is to stratify it, so you break it down into groups. And this is why you would want to very strictly enforce post categories. You would also want to make sure that the content is both as authentic and also of as high a quality as possible, so that you get the most accurate picture of what people think and feel about the products, which is why you'd want to filter out low quality posts, and also why you'd give people a box to vent into with no repercussions, so they are more blunt and honest. You would also want to identify influencers. These are people who are able to contribute a large amount of high quality content, and that's why you'd want to keep a track of the quality of the users, so you can take the high quality users input into, let's say, more account than lower quality users when you're generating your analytics. All in all, Candid, if it is being used in that way, in my humble opinion, has the potential to provide marketers with a ridiculously powerful and very lucrative for Candid set of analytic insights into what the internet in general really likes, and all of the trends and all of these things broken down by subject and demographics. And if this is true, this would be one of the more interesting experiments in online marketing to date, and could represent where online ads are heading, i.e. valuing people's actual opinions instead of just trying to create them through pushing ads at people. But as I said, this is just my speculation on what the actual potential might be. You're free to look at all of the sources and come to your own conclusion. And for the sake of context, similar sorts of analytic processes are in play all across social media and the web, including websites such as Twitter, Google, and Facebook. This is just an interesting idea. I've been Dangerous Analysis. Thank you to all of my subscribers and patrons, and as always,
good night and good luck.